Hello everyone, this is your chess friend here, and I'm going to be quickly analyzing and playing a game so that we can both learn from it while also sharing some beginner tips for you guys. So I think we're going to start with e4, just very good move because it kind of starts getting into the center and it helps me develop too. It captures two good squares, so I think knight f3 is next, just to put some pressure on the e5 pawn. He has to defend it, and he's going to do that with d6, so that's an okay move. But basically, in the center, you want to capture these four, like at the beginning of the game. In the beginning, you need to capture those four squares. That's the center. You want to develop your four minor pieces. Well, actually, you want to develop all your pieces, but these are the main four. You want to develop because they're powerful, and then you want to castle the king by clearing out the f1 and g1 squares. So that's basically the goals for the early game, which is right now. And I'll get into some middle game tactics later on. So right now I think I'm going to go bishop to c4. Just a good move, put some pressure on the d5 square, and it lets me castle next turn. So bishop to g4, that's a fine move. It attacks the knight, but more importantly is that it puts a pin on the knight, because if I move the knight, he'll take the queen. So this is good at early levels because sometimes they don't see the pin and they move the knight. But I think h3 is a good move here because it forces the bishop to move back, or take the knight. So it's just kind of forcing him to make a choice. And if he does move to a different square, that's pretty good with me because I just get an extra turn. But I think I'm going to castle here probably. Yeah, I think castling is better here because it's just important to make sure you keep your king safe towards the beginning game so that he doesn't get a powerful attack going. It also lets me move rook e1 later in the game, so that's good. I think here knight f6 is probably his best move because it puts pressure on the e4 pawn. I have to defend it either with knight c3 or rook e1, so I think it's just good for him to play that. I think I'm probably going to go knight c3 if he does play there, though. Oh, he played knight to c6. That's a good move. I think he's trying to go to c4, probably. Yeah. I kind of want to develop my pieces on the left side of the board. Yeah. So, bishops and knights, they're good pieces to develop early in the game. So I think I'm going to try to do that. But I think it's actually probably better. Well, he's trying to go knight to d4 because then he can capture on f3 with his knight. And then I'll have to recapture with the pawn, which that's not good for me because it opens really. If I recapture with the pawn, my king is very open and he can go queen g5 with a nice check. And I think it'll just be really weak, so I don't want to do that. I think I'll go c3 actually. That's a good move because it covers both b4 and d4, which are basically the knight's two main squares. And the knight can also go to, well, the knight doesn't have many places it can move, right? It could go to a5, but that's not very good for it. Oh, he played knight f6. Knight f6 is a good move. Trying to put some pressure on the pawn. I've got a few ways to defend it. I can go rook e1, which has a really nice defense on the pawn and it helps me develop my rook. I can go d3, which is a good way to develop and defend because it lets me put my knight on d2 and it lets me get my bishop out. So I think I'm gonna play that. Let's see. Okay, bishop e7. That's a good move. He's gonna castle next turn. It didn't really develop the bishop very much though. It only went one square forward, and it's not a very good diagonal. So I think I'm gonna go h3, try to make him decide now whether or not he wants to go bishop h5 or taking the pawn. He could probably go somewhere like, yeah, on that diagonal, but it's probably not very good. So we're gonna see. Okay, he went back. That's smart. I would have probably also gone back here. Going back is good. I think I'm gonna have to develop my bishop though, probably to e3. I just like e3 because I can't. Well, I shouldn't go to g5 because I don't really have a pin. He can move his knight, and I'll only be able to take his bishop. This also helps prepare d4. Ooh, he's gonna play d5 before I can go d4. I think I'm gonna take with my pawn because if I don't, he'll take with his pawn, and that's losing a pawn because if he takes, I recapture, and he takes back with the knight. Sorry, so I can recapture here pretty simply. Okay, knight takes on d5. That's the expected move, and I think I'm gonna move my bishop back to d2, just so that he can't capture it with his knight. Because I mean, as strong as the center would be, I don't want to let him take the knight for the bishop trade because bishops are a little bit better than knights, in my opinion. Some people like knights more, but usually knights are better. So pawns are worth 1 point. Every pawn on the board is worth 1 point. Your bishops, your knights, they're worth 3 points each. Yeah. Your rooks are worth. Well, I think I'm gonna go rook e1 actually, just to put some pressure on that pawn while I can take it. So yeah, my bishop and his knight are very good. Rooks are worth 5 points each. And the queens are worth 9 points each. So basically, your queen is the most valuable, and that's good for when you're making exchanges that like you can trade a bishop and a knight for a rook because that's worth 6 points. My knight's kind of bad at developing, but I think I'll go bishop e3 because he retreated his knight back to f6, which was not a very good move, but he did it so I can move my bishop back to e3 to try to ready something like d4, yeah, and let me develop my knight to the square where the bishop was. And then actually when the knight gets to d2, that's very good because it's also covering the knight on f3. Okay, bishop d6, that doesn't really stop me, so I think I'm going to go knight to d2. That also adds another defender to the e4 square. Ooh, rook e8. It looks like he's trying to push e4, but I have I have two attackers. He has two defenders, so I can't take it if he plays yet, but if I move my bishop, I will be able to. And since he just moved bishop to d6 2 turns ago, that means I have a pin now. So I'm pinning his knight to his queen. So that's nice, I think. That's a good move. It also adds another attacker to the knight. So to the pawn, sorry. Okay, h5 is a good move. I think I'll just move back to h4. He could probably go g5, which I think he's going to do, which a lot of people like this move. I don't like it very much because it opens your king, but it's probably the best move, I think, in this position. I'm also really low on time, which... Okay. If he just moves, I can just take. I have got more defenders than him. Okay, I can just recapture. I think I'm solid here. If I just recapture... I would... Oh, that's silly. Bishop takes f3 isn't good. It really improves my position, adds another defender to the pawn. So from here, I think I'm just easily winning. I think I'm already up a knight. Yeah, I'm already up a knight. I'm going to take his queen with a nice check. I think that's a good move. And the next turn, I'll just take his rook. Yeah. Okay, I ran out of time. Next episode, I'll definitely put up more of a time. So before we sign off, though, I think it's very important to analyze your games that you lose, or even the ones you win, which I was winning here. But yeah, let's analyze the game here quickly so that we can see how we did. Let's see. Okay, so e4, that's a good move. Just normal standard move. Yeah, not much to say here. e5 is so normal move, book move. You go e4, e5. That's pretty standard opening. So I capture the center, and he's trying to capture the center. So yeah, pawn defends, I defend. So we're just fine here. These are good moves, I think. Knight to f3 is just a normal move. d6 is a little bit of a mistake. I would have preferred knight to c6 because, well, knight to c6, it defends the pawn, and it also develops the knight. So, yeah, the engine says it's the best move. So, yeah, I agree. I agree here. Definitely the best move. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. Let's just go back. Okay. He played d6 anyway. And here I played bishop to c4, which again, it's just standard opening. That's what the little book means. It's a normal move. Not much to say here. I was just trying to defend the d5 square in the center and also get ready to castle. Castling is very important in any game. I would recommend it. Almost every single game you should have castled before move like 10, and then yeah. It also puts some pressure on the f7 pawn, which is actually really usually weak because every other pawn at the king side, it has a different defender than the king. King's the worst defender because you can't trade the king for anything. Bishop g4 is okay, but knight f6 is the best simply because it adds some pressure to the e4 pawn, which very important to do in the opening. You can't just let the opponent get whatever center you want. So he already did e5, which was a good move, stopping d4 on move 2, but I mean, he doesn't want to take the knight on f3 anyway with his bishop, so knight to f6 was just a better move to put pressure on my pawn, forcing maybe d3, maybe Knight c3 still. It was better because it's like he got another move because I would be forced to play one of those two moves. Bishop g4 didn't do much, so I just castled. I thought it would be an okay move. He does have the pin, but it's nothing to worry about. Newer players, a lot of the time, they really like putting this pin up because some lower rated opponents, they really just trade their knight onto a different square. They go to g5 or d4 later. So yeah, I castled. I think the engine says d4 was the better move, but I think d4 is a bit risky. But yeah, my move was okay too. Still doing good. According to the engine, I'm up almost half a pawn here, so. Knight c6, that was the best move. I really recommended that. Well, that's a good move. You should be, well, most of the time it's played in games, so. It's a common move. It defends 2 pawns, and on the other square, d7 that the knight could have gone, it only defends 1, so. The engine really likes c3 here because it really cuts off the knight. The knight has 5 squares, or 6 squares it can go to, but it can't go to, so this just cuts off 2 of them. And it's not going to go back, so that's obviously incorrect. Yeah, so it's not just going to go back and forth, because that's really bad. It's not going to go to a5 because my bishop can just move back, probably to e2, not d3, but still, that's an okay move. And even if I go to b3, I can open up the rook if the knight takes. So it's not a good move. And then c4 and d4 are both already occupied, so by my pawn. And the only move is e7, which e7 isn't very good because from there it can only move to g6, which there's no real reason to bring both knights to the king side unless if you're under attack. Because if you wanted a knight developed on the king side, you should have just gone f6, which was the best move here, but he didn't. Yeah, he played it. So exactly, he just wanted to develop a knight onto the king side. Also helps him with castling. Sorry. So soon he can castle. I went d3. I thought d4 was a little bit too risky here. It does, I think, actually just lose a pawn, but bishop to e7 is good move. Just trying to castle, even though it doesn't really develop the bishop, but. h3, that's a good move simply because it pushes the bishop back, and it comes with tempo. And you usually want to go h3 because it just gives you a good square for your king, so your king can move to h2 later if it's under attack, or if there's a check, you could get an escape square, kind of. So, yeah, it's a free move, too. And you could go to g4, but that's not very good. I don't like that because after bishop g6, the bishop's fine. And your king's really weak here, really, is what it comes down to. You could try to trade off the bishop with your knight, but it's not a good move, even if you can take later. So just really weakens your king because there's so many open squares in front of your king, so many lines for enemies to jump out at through. So they can really infiltrate super easily. So I played bishop e3 instead. I thought that was a good move, just developing bishop, and the computer agreed. d5 was a good move. I took, the computer recommends bishop to c5, but actually that leads to a very difficult to play position, even though it adds a pin. The pawn can take, simply, and then I have to recapture, basically. The knight can simply recapture, however, and, well, yeah, first they take the queen, and then knight recaptures to, well, simply, I'm down a pawn. So I'm down a pawn, it's difficult to play, they can just castle next turn, and there isn't really much compensation for losing the pawn. It's just a really strong pawn, you don't have any central pawns, you can't really develop the knight very easily because they can take, and you repin the knight on f3 by moving to rook, by taking with the rook, so really just kind of leads to a difficult to play position, so I didn't want to get into that. That's not super easy for me. So I just recaptured. I think that was okay. Even though if it's made the game even. So the knight retake, which was a good move. Bishop d2, engine doesn't really like it, but I don't want to give up the bishop because 2 bishops together are very strong, and if I had given it up with the knight d2, then the knight could capture, I would improve my center a little bit, which is good for me. I have these 3 powerful central pawns, and I could maybe move up to d4 later. But on the bad thing is that the black player has 2 bishops, and 2 bishops are very strong if they work together on similar diagonals because, well, the knight's pinned, so the bishop can even go to the bishop can go to g5 without worrying, and then together they're really strong. They just cover a lot of squares, and they really pierce through the center of my position. So I didn't want to let that happen. I moved my bishop back, which the computer doesn't really agree with, but it's not bad. So they played. Well, when their knight was here, that's a very okay power. Like, that's a strong square. They've got 4 squares they can move to, but when they move back, they just get rid of all their powerful squares because they could have gone. They were covering 4 squares here, and all of them are very crucial squares for my position. When now they literally have no extra squares they can go to, so their only option would be to move back if they want to make the knight any better. So I think they should have, and I wasn't going to retake because it just gives up the 2 bishops. So, well, 1 bishop. So I think, they should have just stayed there. Rook to e5 is a good move. Computer agrees, simply trying to put some pressure on the pawn. Bishop e3, computer doesn't like it too much. It wanted me to go to bishop g5, but I don't like that because it doesn't really do much. The knight can simply move to even d5 because it just has nothing. No attack really. It's not pinned, so it can go anywhere. And then if the bishop takes if it takes my bishop, I can recapture the knight, and if he takes the knight, I can take his bishop. And again, he has the very strong bishops on these diagonals. So I definitely I don't want to play that. So instead, I played bishop to e3, which I think is a fine alternative. He played bishop to d6, which was kind of weird considering, well, he already played 2 moves. Sorry, not with the knight. 2 moves with the bishop, which is kind of strange, and even still, the bishop's only defending the pawn, which isn't under attack because I just moved my bishop in front of my rook, so there wasn't really any reason to defend that pawn. And the bishop is just better on lots of different squares, so I could see maybe trying to go b6 and then bishop c5 to develop his bishop. But anyway, I just played bishop d2 because his move wasn't that good. Rook to e8 it's a good move. Trying to maybe push e4, but his pawn's powerful, and you see his side of the board is he's got much more space. He's got he's got squares in my side of the board that he's attacking, while my pawns are really only consolidated on the 3rd rank, while his are on the 5th. So really, I just had less squares, but I had almost finished my development. Like, rook c1 is the last development move I had. And I have a little bit of attack with these really strong bishops, where his are weak. And my pieces are all really well attacking his position, so I think I was doing okay. Bishop g5, computer really likes the move because it pins the knight when it could have, well, really soon after he had moved his bishop, I can repin the knight. So I really took advantage of him going to d6. And his knight really can't move anymore, so that's good because it's like I captured his knight, but I didn't have to. So he went h6, which is a fine move. I like that move. And then g5. This move is okay while our position stays closed, but if I can open up the position, that's a very big weakness. He played e4, which I'm just going to recapture because I thought that was fine. I didn't see bishop takes g3, which is better for him. But he played a really silly move. Well, silly. It's not a very good move, bishop takes f3, because from here he's got really nice position. He's got the pinned piece, which you don't want to take a piece that's already pinned because there's really no reason. And my pawns are kind of weak. They're all huddled in like a little corner, giving him a nice diagonal to just check my king. But when he captures, it lets me retake with the g pawn, which is nice. Because I can, from here, I'm much safer. My king can simply move to g2, and then all 3 of these pawns are defended by my king. They're all covering in front of them, and I can simply move queen to e2, or move a rook to e2, so that I've got my sides defended. Knight takes e4 is a big blunder. He just lost the piece because I can recapture with my knight. So that just loses the game, basically. So I'm already here. If you look at it, I'm already up 3 points, which is a piece. Rook takes is even worse because he went from being down a piece to down a rook. I took with the queen, which I could take with the rook right away, but I think taking with the queen is better first is better because it puts him in check. And it lets me trade queens, which if you're ahead, you really want to trade queens, and if you're behind, you never want to trade queens. So here I'm already up a rook. You can tell pretty easily this isn't a difficult game from here. I can go rook from the a file to e1, and then maybe rook e8 check to trade rooks, and then I still have one rook, and a bishop against a knight is easy. So this should be pretty easy to win, just up a rook. But unfortunately, I ran out of time here, so I lost. Well, thanks for watching. I made a new chess account for this, so we'll be working together to keep it growing. Thanks for watching. This was your best chess friend. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. I'll see you all next time. Bye.